Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Vagina Healing Podcast. My name is Nakira, and I'm a dietitian that helps women to heal from chronic vaginal infections using nutrition, mindset work, and nervous system regulation. No medications. I healed myself twice from recurring vaginal infections. Both times it lasted 2 years. I dealt with yeast, BV, mycoplasma, and ureaplasma, and now I deal with nothing because I healed myself. And this episode is going to be about carbs because there is so much misinformation around carbs in the media and online, especially when it comes to healing chronic vaginal infections. And if you were to talk to any of my clients or people that I've worked with when it comes to recurring vaginal infections, they will all tell you that I make them eat carbs. I actually make them eat more carbs because carbs are essential for vaginal healing. And even doctors spread a lot of misinformation around carbs, which not surprised because doctors are not nutrition professionals. They are doctors. They treat and diagnose with medications. Dietitians are the nutrition professionals. And I believe doctors should be referring to dietitians more often instead of giving nutrition education because a lot of their education is based on their studies, and their studies only usually require 1 to 2 classes of nutrition out of an 8 year or even more program because doctors go to school for a long period of time. Doctors do have good intention. Most of them have good intention. So when they're telling you these things, it's to help you. And so it's not to shade them or anything, but they just don't know what they don't know. Like, I don't know what a doctor knows because I'm not a doctor. And even like in the government stuff now, with the whole administration pushing for more nutrition education and changing the food pyramid and all those things, yet for some reason dietitians are still not in the conversation, which those things don't bother me per se because I feel like societal rules don't apply to me. I'm in a whole different frequency and I've escaped the matrix, as they say. So I'm not really concerned about that, but I feel like it would just make sense to refer to dietitians more. And I don't know why a lot of people think dietitians are bought out by like big pharma and stuff. I just that makes no sense to me. I don't know. Before diving into the episode, I wanted to share a quick review I received on my 30-day Fat Reset ebook, and I also want to share the other reviews I have on that book as well. The review that I got this morning stated she rated 5 stars, and she said, "Finally, some real help. This is for the girlies who are exhausted with their vaginal issues. I've been following the protocols. I've done my EVI testing, which is a must, and read the guide, which breaks down the issues starting in your gut. I've completely changed my diet, created a weekly food prep to ensure I'm following all fiber and water guidelines, and after years of antibiotics, I finally feel I'm on the up and up. This is a more holistic view that just makes sense." So that's for my 30-day Fat Reset ebook. I also have another review that states, "Game changer, beyond thrilled with this book and everything I learned from D so far. Highly recommend for anyone suffering with chronic symptoms. We don't have to live like this anymore. Praise God and praise D." And then my third review is, "I love this book. It helped me to understand how to eat better and drink better. I loved how I didn't feel alone because it can be very draining." So this goes to show you guys just the positive feedback that my book is receiving because my book gives you a whole entire blueprint as to how to heal your vagina. I don't create products that don't have the intention of healing somebody. So just because my product is low priced and then I have other really high priced products doesn't mean that there's a gap in information. Across all of my products and services, I teach all the same information. So you can buy my 30-day Vag Reset ebook and still get the same information I'm teaching clients who are paying me over $1,000 for. It's the same information. It's meant to heal people. That's the intention. So if you want the 30-day Vag Reset ebook, that is linked down below. It goes over everything you need to know about nutrition, nervous system, mindset, vaginal healing. It gives you a 30-day protocol for mindset and for nutrition, and it literally gives you a blueprint to healing your recurring vaginal infections. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. Either way, this episode is going to be on carbohydrates, the importance of them, and why you need them for not just vaginal health, but overall health in general and hormonal health. So, first of all, the brain requires 100 to 30 to 150 grams of carbohydrates in a day. Technically, not carbs, but more so, actually, it is carbs because carbs are broken down to glucose. And your brain thrives off of glucose. Like it's the primary fuel source for the brain. That's why when people typically go low carb or keto, oftentimes they may experience more brain fog. Keto is a diet that is designed for people that have epilepsy and other neuro conditions like that. And people kind of take advantage of the fact that it helps them to lose weight as well. Same thing with what we're seeing now with GLP-1s. GLP-1s are meant for diabetes, but people are now taking advantage of them because they help with weight loss. It's like whatever helps with the weight loss, people jump on it, even though that's not the original intention. And now GLP-1 is like $1 billion industry and they're paying people to even promote it, which I think is really highly unethical, but whatever. So, carbs are needed by the body and the brain to function properly for energy, and it goes way more into that. Carbs are literally like, I think carbs and fats are the most misunderstood macronutrient. We have three macros. We have protein, carbs, and fats. For blood sugar stability, for cortisol stability, you want to have all three meals with carbs, protein, and fats, and including your shakes and your smoothies. I talk about this on every single platform, my YouTube channel, my ebook, my course, people that work with me, they know a requirement is that all their meals need to have all three macros for blood sugar stability and cortisol stability. Carbs play a foundational role in maintaining the delicate ecosystem of specifically the female body. It fuels our metabolism, it feeds good bacteria in the microbiome, and it's basically a functional necessity for healing. So, carbs at their core are sugar molecules. Along with protein and fats, they are one of the three main macronutrients found in food and drinks. And our body, like I told you guys before, it breaks down carbs into glucose, which is blood sugar, which is the primary energy source, not just for the brain, but the body's cells, tissues, and organs. So, this is where the misinformation comes in because people are like, oh, carbs are broken down into glucose or sugar molecule, and then that's what feeds the candida, that's what feeds the gardnerella and all those things. No, I'm going to explain that even further. So, carbs function, they provide the immediate energy required for cellular function. That immediate energy is called ATP. We need that for cellular function and for metabolic health. Carbs also helps with the conversion of the thyroid hormone T4 to the active T3, and it mainly happens largely in the liver, and it requires adequate glucose, which comes from carbohydrates. So low carbs can impact your thyroid health. Carbs also help with stress regulation, so sufficient carb intake helps to keep cortisol levels in check, which is why I require all of my meals for all my clients to have protein, carbs, and healthy fats. When the body is low on glucose, you go into hypoglycemia, that's low blood sugar. It perceives the body as a state of famine or you're in survival mode or fight or flight, and the body thinks that you're starving, and that triggers a stress response, which is your cortisol spiking. That's why blood sugar and cortisol go hand in hand. When one is high, the other one is high. There are people that can follow a perfectly healthy diet with no added sugar. But if they have chronic stress, they can still have diabetes. They can still get diabetes or prediabetes or deal with insulin resistance or high A1Cs because even though they're not even consuming that much carbohydrates, they're chronically stressed, which chronically keeps your blood sugar high. So now when it comes to why we need them for vaginal healing, the vaginal microbiome is heavily influenced by glycogen levels. Estrogen, which is a hormone, helps the vaginal lining to produce glycogen, which is then broken down into glucose. This glucose is the primary food source for lactobacillus. If you have been dealing with chronic vaginal infections, you probably have heard the term lactobacillus a lot. It's because it's a good bacteria that our vaginal microbiome thrives off of, especially strains like L. crispatus, L. rhamnosus, L. reuteri, and our vaginas love these lactobacilli because it helps to keep the vaginal pH between 3.8 to 4.5 because lactobacillus produces lactic acid. And so this keeps the vagina, I hear I go again with this word. This keeps the vagina at a perfect pH acidity to protect it from infections and also from foreign invaders such as STDs. So, without adequate carbohydrate intake to support hormonal balance, disrupted. And so, that's why carbs are important. So, lactobacilli, they primarily consume carbs, specifically lactose, glucose, fructose, and they convert them into lactic acid. Lactobacilli also thrive on fermentable fibers. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate. Lactobacillus also thrives off of prebiotics, and these both fermentable fibers and prebiotics are found in fermented foods, yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, and plant-based foods, including fiber-rich fruits and vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts/seeds. All of these are considered carbohydrates, and some of them have more than one macro in them, like nuts and seeds have carbs, protein, and fats. So, lactobacillus consumes sugars, they consume carbs to thrive. And if we need lactobacilli to have a healthy vaginal microbiome, then obviously we need carbohydrates. And so it's really important that my job as a dietitian is to continue educating on the misinformation in the media and helping people to release societal beliefs around carbs. And while I can just go back and forth with people on the internet, it's really not worth it. I'd rather just come to my podcast and educate the people who resonate with me and follow me so that they have actual proper nutrition education and they're not just relying on other non nutrition professionals to give education on these things. And we live in a very carb phobic culture that's driven by diet trends and the diet industry that label carbs as inflammatory or the primary cause of weight gain. And even before I go into that, I want to give you guys like a really broad perspective of diet trends throughout the years. In the 60s, there was an extreme obsession with being really, really, really skinny. In the 50s, there was not an obsession, but more so a liking to women that had a little bit more curves, more meat, like Marilyn Monroe. And then as we went to the 70s and the 80s, there's a huge anti fat movement. Then, as we got to the 90s, early 2000s, and now there was a huge anti carb movement. So you see how throughout the years, information just continuously keeps changing. And companies take advantage of that because they say, oh, okay, now their science is showing that during this time, carbs are bad. Let's start promoting and using low carb foods so that people can buy it. And so you have to pay attention to these trends over time because I'm sure within the next few years is going to be another trend. Right now, there's a huge thing on protein. People are over consuming protein. They're eating so much protein that they're having really bad gas because they most likely don't have enough stomach acid to even break down that protein. They may have some kidney issues because they're over consuming protein. So there's always trends going on, and diet companies profit off of that. That's why I tell people just work with the dietitian because it's individualized nutrition. It's for your specific needs. Everybody is different. And I also want to break the belief for my audience that carbs do not cause weight gain. What causes weight gain is excessive caloric intake. So, you eating carbs does not cause weight gain. If you eat over 3,000 calories a day, and I'm not a calorie counter, so don't try to start counting calories because I mentioned that number. But when you are really eating a large amount of calories a day, like 5,000, 10, like a lot, like that is what causes the rapid weight gain. Out of the three macronutrients, fats are the most calorically dense, meaning that if you can overconsume fats, even if they're healthy or quote unquote unhealthy, that can lead to weight gain quicker. So when clients want to actually gain weight, I prioritize um, extra healthy fats with them, or clients that have fast metabolisms, they actually require extra fats and particularly healthy fats. But that's not to also put fear on fats because, like, again, these things are not individually causing weight gain. It's a caloric intake that's excessive. What can also cause weight gain is other hormonal imbalances or metabolic issues like insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, things like that. So it can either be a metabolic, hormonal, or underlying issue. It can be caloric intake that's excessive, or it can be stress, because stress then leads to some people binge eating because stress impacts your dopamine and serotonin levels. Stress also can cause drops in blood sugar, which can cause more cravings. Stress can also cause insulin resistance, which can cause people to gain weight. So please release the belief that carbs cause weight gain, because they don't. It's the three things I just told you. And so this has led to a collective fear of literal things that come from the earth that are known to be good for us, that have vitamins and minerals and things that we need, like fruit, root vegetables, and grains. People literally don't eat fruit because they think that it's too much sugar and it's unhealthy, but they're quick to go out for a drink with their friends. They're quick to eat other carbs, even though they're not fruit, because it's not really the fruit that's the issue. They just don't want to eat fruit, period. But why are we scared of fruit and vegetables and grains, but we're not scared to go and eat fast food or to drink alcohol, especially alcohol? And in reality, chronic low carb dieting leads to, or it can lead to, that everyone's different, hormonal downregulation, disrupted menstrual cycles, and increased vaginal dryness or sensitivity due to the metabolic stress it places on the female system. Female bodies and male bodies are completely different. Women have a 28-day cycle, men have a 24-hour cycle. So our needs are extremely different. Our needs are dependent on where we're at in our cycle, whether we're in the luteal phase, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, or the menstrual phase. And so, really just drop the beliefs, drop all of the societal beliefs around carbs, because whatever you're hearing about carbs are most likely not true. And just leave it to the professionals to educate on the importance of carbs. Now, to go into the different types of carbohydrates, because that's really important, you have simple carbs and you have complex carbs. Simple carbs are the carbs that are quickly digested sugars found in fruits, honey, and processed sweets. They provide a fast burst of energy. So this is why there's called a 15-minute rule for diabetics who, when they go into hypoglycemia, their blood sugar drops, they need to eat 15 grams of carbs and then wait for 15 minutes. And those carbs are typically simple carbs because they're fast digesting. They provide a fast burst of energy. So this is also why athletes and people who work out should have a simple carb as a pre-workout, because it gives a fast burst of energy. And so fruits, honey, and processed sweets are all simple carbs. But what's the difference? Fruits have vitamins, they have minerals, they have fiber that our body needs, especially when you are healing chronic vaginal infections. Honey, specifically raw honey, manuka honey, are extremely high in vitamins and minerals, and they also contain digestive enzymes that help you to break down your food. Processed sweets typically have none of that. They don't typically have fiber, they don't typically have vitamins and minerals, and they don't typically have digestive enzymes. They're just processed man made sweets that give a fast burst of energy with no real nutritional value. So, when people try to give you the argument that fruits are just sugar, it's not the same thing at all. Fruits and honey, they come with nutritional value. Processed sweets like cakes and cookies, which I love, by the way, so I'm not shaming them, they have no nutritional value, and that's just a fact. Now, when it comes to complex carbs are longer chains of sugar molecules that are found in things like whole grains, beans, and starchy vegetables. And the reason why you should be prioritizing more complex carbs is because they take longer to break down, which provide more sustained energy, and they provide fiber. So, simple carbs are fast digesting, meaning that they have the ability to quickly spike your blood sugar and to quickly crash it. Your blood sugar and your cortisol levels are basically intertwined. When one is high, the other one is high. So, if your diet is primarily simple carbs, then you are constantly spiking your blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes, it has to crash. When it crashes, it has to go back up. And in order for it to go back up during that crash period, it makes you crave even more sugar so that it can go back up. And typically, you will crave the simple carbs. It's a quick burst of energy for the body. So you'll eat that, it'll shoot right back up and then shoot right back down. And this chronic cycle of blood sugar instability and spikes is what then leads people into diseases like PCOS, insulin resistance, and any other hormonal or metabolic issues. And so, when it comes to complex carbs, These are the ones that I recommend my clients to eat. I do recommend my clients to have fruits and honey, but I'm going to explain how I tell them how to eat that soon. But complex carbs, you want to prioritize the 5 fiber food groups: fruits, veggies, grains, legumes, nuts slash seeds. So because complex carbs take longer to break down, they're slow digesting. Oh my gosh, complex carbs are slow digesting. Protein is slow digesting, and fats are slow digesting. When you have three of these macros in one meal, they're all slow digesting. It does not allow your blood sugar to spike really high and then to crash really low. As we eat throughout the day, our blood sugar does have ups and downs, but it's not meant to be really severely spiked and then really severely crash. It's meant to be more of like a stable thing. And so when things are slow digesting, they provide more energy. You feel better. You don't get the itis after your meals. And it just makes you overall, it just supports healthy blood sugar. Complex carbs also provide fiber, which, if you follow me, you know I talk about the importance of fiber for vaginal health because of the fact that fiber helps your body to excrete waste. When we excrete waste, we can also get rid of excess hormones and toxins that are circulating in our gut. And so one of the things that is stored in our poop and our waste is estrogen. And so when you were holding on to poop in your gut and you're constipated and you're not going to the bathroom every single day, you are most likely recycling estrogen from your waste back into your body, causing estrogen dominance, which can then cause really painful periods, heavy periods, hormonal acne, hormonal imbalances in general, and reoccurring vaginal infections and more. So fiber helps us to go to the bathroom. Fiber also binds onto excess cholesterol and excretes it out through your waste. So if you have high cholesterol, fiber directly helps with decreasing cholesterol levels. Fiber is also very anti inflammatory. It helps with protecting heart health and brain health. Fiber also helps with skin health. Fiber helps with literally every single thing in the body. If you want to learn more about fiber, I like these two pages, the Fiber China on TikTok, and I have a dietitian for her name is Gabriel. She is a fiber dietitian, and her whole page is dedicated to talking about fiber. So fiber is extremely important. And so fiber is a type of carbohydrate. It's a complex carb. Fiber is the non-digestible part of carbohydrates that cleans the gut and feeds the microbiome. So fiber literally is like a broom for your gut. It cleans it up and it feeds the microbiome with good bacteria. Not that fiber itself is a probiotic, but it feeds good bacteria. And you get fiber from, you guessed it, carbohydrates, the 5 fiber food groups: fruits, veggies, grains, legumes, nuts slash seeds. When it comes to fruits, I recommend my clients can eat any fruits that they want. I don't tell them you can't have pineapples, you can't have grapes because it's too much sugar. Prioritize low sugar fruits. No, I tell clients eat whatever fruit you want, but just make sure that carbohydrates are the smallest portion on your plate. You don't want to overdo it because carbs are better consumed in smaller amounts for most people. But again, nutrition is very individualized. Bodybuilders typically eat an insane amount of carbs to the point where some of them voluntarily ask for metformin to bring the blood sugar down. I don't agree with that, but hey, that's their lifestyle. Carbs are necessary. Um, I forgot what I was saying. Um, oh yeah, so because I don't view any fruit as good or bad, I think all fruits are healthy for you. I tell clients go ahead and eat fruits, but just keep them in small amounts. And if you want to prioritize more low glycemic fruits like berries and apples and citrus, you can, but don't be afraid of the more sugary fruits like pineapples and grapes because they still have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants that help to feed your gut bacteria. For example, pineapples have an antioxidant called bromelain, which helps with people that have lots of congestion, sinus issues, allergies, um, any type of like inflammatory histamine response. Bromelain can help with that. It also helps you to break down protein in your body when you're eating. Grapes are high in, what's that antioxidant called? Resveratrol, I think. Let me actually double check that. Grapes antioxidants. I don't prepare notes in advance, just so you guys know I'm just talking for my own knowledge. But for example, grapes have a powerful antioxidant called it's resveratrol, which is the most prevalent in red and purple skin grapes. They also contain anthocyanins and proanthocyanidins. These are all really complex words, but basically, these antioxidants, they help with anti-inflammation, so they prevent inflammation in the body. They protect cardiovascular health. They have neuroprotective benefits. They have anti-aging benefits. They support your immune system. So I'm never going to tell someone to not eat grapes or pineapples or any quote unquote high sugar fruits. I just tell them have fruits, have them in moderation. When it comes to vegetables, plenty of vegetables are amazing and they're really beneficial for gut health, particularly vegetables like cruciferous vegetables that help with supporting your liver, leafy greens and bitter greens. If you also are on my YouTube channel, you probably see me talk about bitters a lot, especially in my gut health playlist. I have a constipation video that goes over the importance of bitters, particularly bitter foods and also supplements that help your body for digestion because bitters help you to produce more stomach acid and more digestive enzymes to help you break down your food. So consuming bitters before a meal can be really helpful, and there's lots of bitter vegetables that can help. Whole grains. Whole grains are so essential for fiber and for so many benefits in regards to preventing cancer, decreasing inflammation, heart health, brain health. So much benefits from grains, and grains are rice, quinoa, buckwheat, barley, farro, millet, couscous, oats. These are all so beneficial for our gut microbiome and for vaginal health and for helping us go to the bathroom. A lot of people avoid them because they think that it's not good for us because of carbohydrates, and it's simply not true. Then you have legumes, you have chickpeas, beans, lentils, peas. These are all important as well for fiber. And then you have nuts and seeds. So chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds. These are high in protein, carbs, and healthy fats, which healthy fats are essential for vaginal health. They also all contain vitamins and minerals needed to support your immune system. So, all of which I mentioned are the five fiber food groups, which are really important because of the role they play in gut health. There is a gut vagina axis, meaning that our gut and our vaginas are connected and they communicate all day long. And so they exchange microbes back and forth. So we want high gut diversity, low vaginal diversity. So we want our vaginas to be dominated by lactobacillus, but we want our gut to have a wide range of diversity because this helps to populate more probiotics that can then travel to your vagina and protect your vagina. So these five fiber food groups help with that. Now, the key is to consume a diversity of them. They say around 50 plants a week. So it'll be like 50 of these things a week. And also, the colors are important. So, not just eating one color fruit and vegetable, but eating the rainbow because each color in these five fiber food groups provide different antioxidants. And grapes themselves, grapes have five different antioxidants in them. They have the resveratrol. I'm not going to pronounce these words correctly. They have the resveratrol. They have the anthocyanins. They have proanthocyanidins. They have flavonoids like quercetin and myristotin, and they have vitamin C. Antioxidants are basically compounds that fight free radicals in the body that cause inflammation. So they basically fight inflammation. They're anti-inflammatory. Grapes in themselves have five different antioxidants. And so imagine if you diversified different colored grapes, like green grapes, purple grapes, black grapes, you doing different colored peppers, different colored onions, different colored eggplants, different colored berries, different colored apples, different colored every plant. The more diversity from these plants, the more diverse and healthy your gut microbiome, the more strong your immune system, the more likely you are to have a healthy body that does not deal with recurring vaginal infections. So, more colors and more diversity from plants from the five fiber food groups helps significantly with healing chronic vaginal infections and supporting a gut that no longer even allows recurring vaginal infections. When it comes to whole grains, I tell people you can have grains savory or sweet. You can make a hot quinoa cereal. You can make quinoa as a side dish for a dinner. It doesn't matter. But keep these things in moderation in small amounts, but diversify them so that you can, it's basically giving your body like a probiotic, essentially. Not that these are probiotics, but it helps with the production of probiotics. So Have these things in your diet. Make sure you were going to the bathroom every single day. Use the Bristol stool chart as a reference to see if you're constipated or not. You can look it up on Google. But fiber plays a really huge role in estrogen detox, lowering cholesterol levels, preventing inflammation, supporting skin health, gut health, brain health, preventing colon cancer and other cancers. That's the thing. The society, for the most part, is really lacking in fiber, particularly American westernized diets. And that's why there's an increased risk of cancer and diseases because of the lack of fiber. Fiber plays such a vital role. I can't even, like, I might have to do a whole entire episode on fiber itself, because it's literally just so important for health in general. So, when it comes to having carbs and how to eat them without spiking your blood sugar, you basically want to prioritize what I call naked carbs. Naked carbs are carbs that are eaten by themselves without any protein, without any fat. So, for example, eating just an apple or a piece of dry toast or having just honey. Naked carbs are good for a pre workout because of that quick energy boost. If you are healing chronic vaginal infections, you typically do not want to have naked carbs because they cause a rapid spike in your blood sugar followed by a sharp crash. So, to fix this, you always want to have your carbohydrates with protein and fats. So, for example, an apple with almond butter. This slows down the glucose absorption, protecting your insulin sensitivity and your mood. And so, not that you have to completely avoid negative carbs the rest of your life, but as much as possible, pair your carbs with protein and fats. So, for example, honey, have honey in a drink that also has maybe some heavy cream, or have honey with something that just has protein and fats. Fruits with nuts and seeds, fruits with nut butter. So, even if you have something like cake, cookies, ice cream, pair it with a protein and a fat to help slow down the rate at which it's digested. And that's why I teach people how to live a balanced lifestyle. I don't believe in restriction and dieting and fasting and detoxing and all of that. I don't believe any of that because it's not necessary. And so just pair your carbs with protein and fats and you'll see a major difference. Now, when it comes to another topic of carbs, these are more functional carbs. Prebiotics and resistant starches are types of carbohydrates that you literally need when you're dealing with chronic vaginal infections. Prebiotics feed probiotics, which then produces postbiotics. So I always give this analogy. Imagine a fish as a probiotic, fish food as prebiotic, and their poop as a postbiotic. So fish eat the fish food and they poop. Probiotics eat the prebiotics and they poop it out and create postbiotics. Prebiotics feed probiotics. They are a specific type of fiber that acts as a fertilizer for your gut bacteria. So they help your probiotics to thrive. And so when probiotics are thriving, they're creating more postbiotics. Postbiotics are the metabolic byproducts or the metabolites that help to support even further more gut health, more colon health. And I'm going to give you guys a better definition, but Google definition is that postbiotics are the beneficial, functional, bioactive compounds or quote unquote waste produced when probiotics ferment prebiotic fiber in the gut. So these inanimate, non-viable microbial components include metabolites like short-chain fatty acids that support weight loss. They support immune function. They reduce inflammation. They strengthen your gut lining, and they improve overall digestive health. So postbiotics work by directly interacting with the immune system, aiding in nutrient absorption and strengthening the intestinal barrier, often acting faster than live probiotics because they don't need to colonize the gut. Postbiotics play a really big role in preventing colon cancer, by the way, and they also help with improved immune response, reduce inflammation, relief from irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, improved metabolic health, and as mentioned already, anti-cancer support. So there are foods that do contain high levels of postbiotics, but postbiotics you can get them from simply just eating probiotic and prebiotic rich foods. But foods that do have postbiotics include yogurt, kefir, buttermilk, sauerkraut, kimchi, and fermented pickles, miso and tempeh, and sourdough bread, but fresh sourdough bread, not like the shelved sourdough breads, but the ones that are made in the bakery, fresh, daily. And so other types of postbiotics include functional proteins, extracellular polysaccharides, short chain fatty acids like butyrate, enzymes, and other things, which you don't need to really know any of those, by the way, but I'm just telling you guys so that you guys know. So, postbiotics are extremely important. Prebiotics come from foods like garlic, fresh leeks, fresh onions, fresh shallots, asparagus, artichokes, apple skin, pear skin. So, most fruits and vegetables, if they have an edible skin, it's likely a prebiotic fiber. So, you should eat it because it helps with feeding your probiotics. And like a really easy hack that's also quick that I recommend to clients is buy fresh garlic, fresh onions, fresh leeks, and fresh shallots, put them in a food processor, keep them in a jar, and use them to season all your food because then you're adding basically a dose of prebiotics to all of your meals. It's an easy way, but keep them in the fridge for up to a week, otherwise they can get slimy. When you do this, it can make a large batch that can last for up to a month. You can keep the rest in the freezer and take it out when you need to use it. But prebiotics are essential and they come from carbohydrates. Then you have resistant starches, which are really great for your health and are also essential for vaginal health because these are carbohydrates that resist digestion in the small intestine. So they don't spike your blood sugar, they don't feed candida or bacteria or whatever because they resist digestion in the small intestine. So they travel directly to the large intestine where they ferment and produce postbiotics. They produce short chain fatty acids like butyrate, which are incredibly anti-inflammatory for the gut and vaginal environment, and they also protect against cancer and they help with weight loss. So resistant starches directly gives you postbiotics. Now, what are resistant starches? They are basically starches that have been cooked and cooled overnight. So legumes, grains, um, nuts, sorry, not nuts, sorry, grains, legumes, um, yeah, actually, mainly just those two things. Also, potatoes can count and pasta can count as well. So, any starch, essentially, bread doesn't count. Well, sourdough bread counts because it's a postbiotic, but basically, any starch that has been cooked and cooled for 24 hours is a resistant starch. And after 24 hours, even if you reheat it, it doesn't matter. It's still a resistant starch because it went through a process called retrogradation. And so, when you when you cook rice, when you cook potatoes, when you cook pasta, when you cook any grain, when you cook any legume, and you keep it in the fridge overnight, the next day it is not resistant starch. This includes macaroni salad, potato salad, pasta salad. This includes any cooked rice, potato, pasta dish. This includes any grain or legume, oats, barley, things like that, beans, lentils, whatever. And so, resistant starches, I'm going to keep reiterating it, it completely bypasses digestion in the small intestine. It does not spike your blood sugar because it travels directly to the large intestine where they ferment and produce postbiotics. So keep that in mind. You don't have to cook your starches and then wait 24 hours because you can eat your starches right away, pair them with protein and fats, put them in the fridge, and then the next day now you just have resistant starches. You don't have to purposely make them into resistant starch first before eating them unless you want to, because you can just simply pair the starch with protein and fats. Either way, resistant starches come from carbohydrates and they give you postbiotics to help you fight off recurring vaginal infections. Now, just to go over this again, gut diversity is really important. A diverse gut leads to a dominantly lactobacillus vaginal microbiome. And so the estrobolome is like a new term, not necessarily new, but it's a collection of bacteria in the gut dedicated to metabolizing and eliminating used estrogen. So if your carb intake is low and your fiber variety is poor, your gut diversity suffers, which can then lead to estrogen dominance, which I mentioned already, and recurring vaginal infections. Low gut diversity will also show up as skin issues, acne, eczema, psoriasis, hidradenitis, and just disease in general. And lastly, I want to put a disclaimer out there that if you have a fast or a slow metabolism, your carbohydrate needs are very different. My last podcast episode talked about fast versus slow metabolism and mineral imbalances that are caused by that. So, with a fast metabolism, your body converts food into energy really fast, and so it burns through carbs really fast. And so when it comes to slowing down your metabolic rate so that you're not burning through all your minerals really fast, fast metabolizers typically require lower carbs and more protein, more healthy fats. Slow metabolizers, because this is typically a result of under eating or over exercising, they usually don't get enough carbs, and they already have a slower metabolic rate. So they typically will need more carbohydrates, less fats, and moderate protein. So keep that in mind. So, with that being said, that concludes today's episode. I hope this episode gave you guys clarity and reassurance that you can eat carbs. Carbs are essential for the human body and they are essential for healing chronic vaginal infection. Just prioritize the 5 fiber food groups and prioritize prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics, and resistant starches as your primary carbohydrate sources, and you are good to go. So yeah, that's it. I will see you guys all in the next episode. There are ways to work with me down below or to purchase any of my products like my 30-day fat reset ebook. Yeah, that's it. Bye everyone.